This is not good. Okay, after what is just a brutal injury to Patrick Laine, the injury news is not out as of right now, but after this brutal injury, the Habs are left scrambling, and as much as it hurts to look at this, there may be some reason to look on the bright side as much as you can, as this does open up some potential roster spots. And while Owen Beck was sent down, this could help for Oliver Kapanen as well, to see if he finally has what it takes to make the Habs roster. We'll talk about the impact of this Laine injury, many negatives, and if we can even possibly get out some positives, we will try to. But also, we got some positives coming on the Ivan Demidov front, as he had a really good game, looking like an incredibly dangerous player today, Jesse, with an assist on SKA's goal in the first period. But after some other phenomenal plays other than this assist, including a blind spin pass to Nikishin right in front, who couldn't quite finish. Look at this spin pass. Absolutely beautiful. And this give and go. He was unfortunately benched after this tripping penalty, even though he got the puck. After that tripping penalty, he was benched for the rest of the game. There's just a bunch of crazy stuff we got to get into coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're going to start, Jesse, with Ivan Demidov. We're just going to piggy right back off of that. And you know what? There is a bit of bright side to this. On the bright side, kind of. Because even though he was benched, he didn't play in the third. He only played 8 minutes in this game, Jesse. He played a really good game. He legitimately looked like one of SK's most dangerous players. He got a point. He's now up to 8 points in 10 games. And honestly, the fact that he's getting this kind of production, now with Kuznetsov out for a couple months as well, and with him being benched a couple times for various little things, is honestly really impressive.
And just seeing him attack the net basically at all opportunities. Whenever we're seeing highlights from whenever we're watching him play, like this guy is playing in front of the net all the time. Very much, could have scored that goal where he let the assist. I think he just let his teammate kind of tap that in. Ivan right by the net again, ready to let it go. So again, he is 20th in the team right now in ice time while being second in scoring. It just makes sense, right? But like Ivan Demidov is reminding me of Lane Hudson. And the fact that no matter what sort of kind of challenge that you throw at them, they just kind of find a way to succeed. Like, it is so underrated right now how he's performing against fully grown men in very limited ice time. He's, getting benched for the smallest type of things. And the fact to still have this type of production, 8 points in 10 games, keeping up, just says so much about, that player for me. And how adversity, sometimes it can be good for a young player.
Yeah, like, I'm seeing people still call for Roman Rottenberg, or as I'm seeing some people call him Michel Therrien in a mask. They're calling for his head right now after these, it's seemingly very old school styles of coaching. Like, I get it. He's young. You don't want to make him mistakes, but don't forget, Roman Rottenberg also didn't really coach professional hockey before this season. He just happened to have a bit of power, happened to take over a team, and this is what we're seeing. But again, Jesse, you got to thrive through this adversity. And the one thing that I think pretty much every fan that's watched Demidov has been saying is that this guy's controlling the game at a phenomenal level for a guy his age. And when you watch these highlights, the poise to do some of the things he's doing, but like, also, it's not just the poise. It's like almost like this crazy confidence. And we see Hudson try to pull off these crazy moves left and right, and he often gets away with them. Demidov is doing the same thing. That spin pass in that highlight reel is just one of those examples where, like, how often do you see an 18-year-old do that? So the fact that he's seemingly getting more and more comfortable every single game, that's something I've noticed too. He's getting more comfortable, he's looking more and more dangerous, and on any given night, he could easily be the best player on the ice. And that, to me, is the biggest thing to glean from this. Whether he's benched or not, you guys can take that, and like, I wouldn't mind if you criticize that as well. That's totally fair. But at the same time, Jesse, for what he's getting, for the time he's getting, he is showing out, I think, more than we even could have expected so far for a guy his age in the KHL.
Looking dangerous on the ice. It's a great point, Josh. It's a great way to really describe his game. And again, that vision that we're seeing, that spinorama, kind of knowing where these other players are on the ice. I don't want to say like a Sidney Crosby type right away, but that vision is absolutely there. That leadership with also so many intangibles as well. It's really incredible. And what I'm loving seeing from him, a common theme with Ivan here, is that he loves carrying the puck.
Oh, yeah.
He loves having it, carrying the offensive zone and really just making something happen. There has to be a lot said for that. Again, like Lane Hudson, where you're a young player coming onto a team and knowing that it's probably in the team's best interest that you take some ownership. In fact, some of these older guys want you to really put that skill on display and really look to make things happen. That's the big thing about Ivan Demidov. we definitely recognize him. We see him and his progression, his development, despite all the odds, is going so well right now.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm really happy to see what he's doing. And I know a lot of people are going to keep comparing him to Michkov, who, by the way, Jesse, I'm not going to lie, Michkov's super fun to watch. This guy has been lighting up the preseason. So, there's going to be this rivalry for many years to come between them. But regardless, we look at Demidov, he's doing great stuff. And let us know down below your thoughts on the benching, but also his performance so far, as we're going to move into the tougher part of this video. Look, we didn't make a video last night. We didn't make a video earlier today. It's kind of hard to make a video on this topic. I'm going to play the video one more time. Look away if you're squeamish again. I guess I showed it right off the bat. So I think enough people have seen this video already, though, Jesse. Look, it doesn't look good. As of the recording of this video, we don't know the severity of the injury. Torn ACL, he's out for the season. Torn MCL, it depends. If it's a meniscus, could be anywhere from 4 weeks up to 4 months. We don't really know. But, look, I don't think it's time to dwell on this. I feel like that's all I've done since we saw this injury. I feel like it's just been negative, and honestly, kind of for good reason. But we're not about to go after Cedric Paré. Arber Xhekaj kind of did that for, I think, a lot of us figuratively, and well, I guess literally as well. But let's just talk about the impact of this, because it wasn't just Laine, it was Reinbacher too. And I think talking about the impact going forward, like Marty said, right? Coach Marty said, hockey, or he said the league. I think people took his quote kind of out of context. As Marty said, the league doesn't care about the injury. He doesn't mean DOPS. He just means kind of the game of hockey, right? The rest of the NHL isn't going to give you pity if you lose a player, right? Well, I mean, we're getting pity, but at the same time, the game of hockey doesn't care if you got an injury. You got to move on. You got to move forward. And that's what we're going to try and do here. So as Marty said, you got to just do the best with what you have. And when we're looking at Laine going down, it sucks to talk about, but at this point we have to, hoping that it's not a long-term injury. But if it is, we got to look at what's going to happen. So let's think about who could take a spot on the second line if he's out long term, because I think that's a big discussion that needs to be had. And Jesse, to me, the top guy is Joshua Roy. I think Joshua Roy has played really well with really good players. I think he's had a phenomenal training camp. You could argue guys like Armia could move up there. You could argue a guy like maybe Gallagher, maybe Anderson, right, to have that size with Dach, and Anderson and Newhook have looked good together. I think it's Joshua Roy. And do you have any other ideas for that second line now?
Yeah, well, definitely. We see Roy coming up, and for sure, he just plays better, the better players that he plays with. He also makes other players very good around him. Obviously, nobody's going to be a substitute for Patrik Laine at this point in time. He was brought in for a very specific reason. So, of course, last night was just brutal in so many different ways, right? It was so tough to watch. Again, tough just in and of itself, but given the history for Habs fans right now, we get how you're feeling. This is a difficult situation. We've been through it. Like, at least with Dach, we were able to get through the preseason before this type of injury would happen. The good news is that even though it didn't look good, we don't know yet the extent of this injury. We don't know where it's going to fall. We're really hoping and praying that it's not too serious. We're saying, for our part here on Habs Digest, we rebuke any type of curse that's on this team right now. This team is going to be healthy going forward. Laine, the injury is not going to be too bad. He's going to be better going forward. We deserve it. We've kind of been going through the trenches with this team for a minute, and definitely I think the Habs organization is so thankful, for us for being that way, holding on. But there's a solid reason. We still have many solid players. Depth, Marty St. Louis said, is one of the things that this team has had the most compared to other years since he's had as a head coach. So this is the silver lining with this situation. Of course, we hope that injury is not too bad, but the fact is that Joshua Roy can play with very good players. We saw that the World Juniors playing with Bedard elevated his game. You have to feel like this is a player that adapts to his situations that he's in. Captain, let's face it, he was already ready for the NHL. Yes, this is speeding up his development. If this injury doesn't happen, for sure he's going over to Sweden. But Kaiden is ready for this team. He is going to have a positive impact on this team in many different ways. So we do have that next man up. We got a lot of those young guys, and they're ready to take those next steps. Even though this obviously isn't the situation they're looking for to make it happen, we got young guys. They got to play. They're going to get an opportunity, at least in the interim, until we're knowing the severity of this injury in full effect here. But you have to feel like was going to step up, Kaiden step up, but the whole team really is going to step up because we still believe in this team and that we're better than even other people think that we are.
That's the thing. I think Montreal is, if they weren't ready to play with a chip on their shoulder, they sure are now. I mean, we saw Arber Xhekaj get more mad than we have literally ever seen him, more mad than we've seen a Habs player in a long time. I mean, that kind of outburst there reminded me of the time well, we remember that Price incident where he kind of went after a certain guy with a blocker. But there are incidents like that. But Xhekaj really set that tone, and everyone, like even Kirby yesterday before the game, was saying how Laine was loving it. He was loving everything about this. So the guys are going to play their hearts out for him. And, you can argue about the preseason games, whether they should exist or not. I know Pierre Lebrun definitely wasn't a fan based on something he said today. But Jesse, I think you made a good point about Oliver Kapanen. Now, the biggest, I'm an Oliver Kapanen lover right now. That maybe I should phrase that differently, but you know what I mean. I'm one of the founders of the Oliver Kapanen fan club. I've been on board with him for a long time, and I think a lot of you guys have started to join recently too. And the only question for me, Jesse, is where does he fit now? Because, while Laine does open up a spot on the wing, where does, Kapanen as a 13th forward makes a lot of sense now, just to have him there. But kind of like some people have been seeing toss the name Barré-Boulet around because he has had a phenomenal training camp as well, right? So, and he's a winger, so it makes some sense to kind of bring him in as that fourth line winger. I know you'd almost have to move one of Evans or Dvorak to a wing if you want to incorporate Kapanen. Do you think that's something that Marty may consider? I mean, he's not been shy with messing around with positioning. We've seen Newhook play on the right wing. We've seen Lane Hutson play on the right side. Do you think there's a world where we see one of Dvorak or Evans shift to the wing in order to make room for a guy like Kapanen, or even play Kapanen out of his natural position on the wing in and of itself just to get him to NHL reps?
Yeah, no, it'll be the latter for sure. Kapanen will move to a wing before somebody a little bit more established, like Dvorak, like Evans. We know there's definitely a little bit of a hierarchy to all this. So, but he's looking to establish himself, and for sure, he's going to have a great audition right now. And if he does that, it's just going to kind of put that pressure a little bit more on Dvorak, knowing that basically Kapanen's here now. It's not like a chance where basically it's just kind of Beck, the only player that can kind of come up from the AHL. We're really now Kapanen and Beck are both going to be options at that position. So it does offer a little bit of flexibility as well for Montreal in a certain way, you could say, to strengthen their 3C position now with having Kapanen more in town, but giving a little bit more runway to be able to evaluate instead of having to make a decision with him right away. Either he's here or he's in Europe right now. So you have to feel like that'll kind of work out well, at least for that line, to probably help it at some point in time. But for the meantime, Kapanen's going to be on the wing.
Yeah, I found it interesting they sent Beck down so quickly. He was one of these cuts, but I guess not at the same time. I think they just kind of realized center position's backed up, and Kapanen did look better than Beck, I thought. But Beck looked good too. I think he'll have a good season in the AHL, and he can still be called up. But let us know what you guys think. I mean, as much as it sucks to talk about, who is going to take that spot on the second line? I think Joshua was the prevailing opinion. And who is going to make the team now out of camp? Is it going to be Barré-Boulet, a guy that we thought was probably just going to be an AHL signing? Or is it going to be someone like Kapanen? We'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. A little more of a somber tone in today's episode, but I hope you guys got something positive out of it, as always. And if you enjoy, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You guys have been subscribing like crazy, and we really, really do appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.